I remember the first time I stood in front of Emma's full-length mirror and realized my reflection could be more than a secret habit hidden in the dark hours. It wasn't a revelation like in those movies. No lightning, no dramatic soundtrack, just a small, stubborn warmth that crawled up from my chest when I slipped on a dress that fit like it had been waiting for me. That warmth has become my most dangerous comfort. My name is Erin. I'm 31. I work in client services at a mid-sized tech firm downtown, and most days I wear crisp shirts, sensible shoes, and the polite smile of someone who's learned how to fit into conference rooms. By 8 in the morning, I'm a man who knows product roadmaps and quarterly targets. By night, when the city hushes and Emma's at her weekend shift at the hospital, I become someone else. I become the person who brushes mascara onto trembling lashes and takes a breath that tastes like permission. Crossdressing started for me as curiosity. At college parties, a dare from friend, the stupid thrill of trying on a skirt and seeing how the world, or at least my reflection, answered. It grew into ritual. Hair tucked into a scarf, a carefully chosen pair of earrings, the slow precision of contouring that made cheekbones appear where I hadn't noticed them before. Those afternoons were small, private performances that left me calmer, more whole. They were mine. But mine is complicated. I didn't grow up in a household where gender was discussed beyond rules and expectations. My family praised achievement and frowned at softness. Be sturdy, my father would say, and I learned to bury parts of myself beneath textbooks and spreadsheets. I learned to measure risk, to prioritize reputation. Which is why this secret life sits at the edge of everything, intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Emma knows some of me. The late-night texts, the small lies about staying late at work, the way I flinch if a conversation turns toward weddings or kids. She thinks she knows what she needs to know. We've been together for 3 years. On paper, we're solid. 2 incomes, a tidy apartment, mutual friends who invite us to game nights. Emma is practical and fierce in a quiet way. She's a nurse with a steady, incisive humor and a capacity for care that melts me in 1,000 tiny moments. She's also the one person whose approval matters more than anyone's, which is why the idea of being found feels like the most dangerous gamble of all. Tonight, the apartment smells like jasmine from the candle I never let Emma light, and there's a thin sliver of rain tracing the windows. Emma left at 6 for an overnight shift. Hospital emergencies are her kind of adrenaline, and she kissed my temple like she always does, the kind of kiss that anchors and blurs at once. Her keys jangled in the bowl by the door. I watched her do that small routine and counted heartbeats until the door clicked shut behind her. That sound, the click of a lock and the soft slipping away of someone you love, is what turns our home into a stage. Work matters because it's the opposite of this room. My boss, Darren, is exacting and smoothly charismatic. He runs his team like a chessboard and expects pieces in precise places. He has a way of saying things that sounds casual, then lands like orders. Look sharp for the pitch, he said last month, and Erin, look pretty for the client dinner. He laughed off the words in the way men with power sometimes do, like a wink. I laughed too, because what else do you do when someone you report to makes a private joke about appearance? But his words lodged somewhere in my head, not as a command, at least not yet, but as a tiny permission and a sharp reminder that being seen in a certain way could be dangerous and useful at once. That tension between who I am at home and who I am on the calendar is the axis of my life. I'm not a performer for attention. I don't crave public spectacle. Mostly I crave the quiet wholeness I feel when I step into a dress and let the world compress into a pair of stockings and the particular click of heels on tile. Sometimes crossdressing feels like trying on the person I would be if fear didn't speak so loudly. Other times it feels like a secret I hide behind so carefully that it becomes part of the structure of my day, an underside that feeds a fragile joy. There are practical reasons too. Our office is conservative in the soft ways that matter. Lunchroom banter about who's too soft, a culture of late nights and poker faces. If anyone at work found out, it could be jokes or worse, gossip that twists into policy conversations you don't want to have. I've earned my place here by being reliable and by learning to make myself small when it's safer. which makes the nights even more essential. They are the private rebellion that keeps me from unraveling. I keep a drawer of things under the side table in our bedroom. A cheap velvet box holds the first pair of earrings I ever bought for myself, and a scarf from a thrift store that still smells faintly of someone else's perfume. The dress I reach for is plain but perfect, a midnight blue sheath that hugs the shape I keep secret from the world. There's a small mirror on the vanity with a crack running down one edge, a scar I somehow earned in a rush one night, and when I lift it, the person who looks back is familiar and strange, like a photograph of an alternate life. There's also guilt. Guilt is a sticky thing that coats the back of my throat. When I imagine Emma discovering my drawer, the thoughts go dark and quick. She's standing over me with confusion and betrayal, friends and family raising eyebrows as if they'd been keeping score. I've imagined apologies rehearsed into the mirror, all of them clumsy and inadequate. Mostly, though, I imagine the hurt, the tiny betrayals of omission that build up like dust. It's not just fear of being judged, it's fear of fracturing the one tether I've allowed myself to rely on. But tonight, with rain whispering and the apartment hollowed by Emma's absence, I let myself breathe differently. I pull the dress from its hanger, trace the seam with a finger like it's a map, and begin the ritual. Foundation pats at my jawline, a careful sweep of eyeshadow that makes the room spin a fraction brighter, the satisfying thud of wig pins securing false hair to my scalp. Each small action is a negotiation between bravery and the risk that vibrates somewhere beyond the door. I tell myself this will be private, contained. I tell myself I'll change back by midnight, slip the costume into the drawer, and return to spreadsheets and polite smiles. But there is a sweetness to the danger now, not because I want to be reckless, but because every time I step into that other persona, I learn something new about the person I might become if the pieces ever align differently. As I fasten the last strap and click into heels that make my calves tense and sing, I hear my phone buzz on the coffee table. A message from Darren. Client had a sudden change. Can you come to the office tonight? Low key, but Darren wants everyone to look sharp. My stomach does a stupid, confusing flip. The office tonight? After hours? I glance at the clock. It's only 9. The rational part of me, the one who lives by calendars and deadlines, calculates possibilities. It could be a late-night prep, it could be nothing. But there's the other voice, the one that remembers Darren's careless comment, that registers how much the line between private and public can shift in a single sentence. For a second, I stand frozen in Emma's mirror, the city lights behind me turning the room into a shallow theater. I think of calling in sick, of hiding the dress under a pile of laundry. I think of how small choices have a way of escalating, of how one invitation can pull the curtain back on everything I've worked to keep behind it. Some nights, secrets are safe because no one knocks. Some nights, they aren't. Tonight might be the night that measures which mine are fragile and which are impossible to keep. I take a breath that tastes like jasmine and rain and the metallic edge of fear, and I make a choice, not yet out loud, not yet final, to see what happens next. When I finally stepped out of the apartment, the city was soaked. The rain had turned to mist, clinging to everything like a nervous secret. My umbrella trembled in my hand, though maybe that was me. I was still dressed, not as Erin from the office, but as the person I tried not to name out loud. The midnight blue dress, the soft curls brushing my neck, the faint perfume I'd borrowed from Emma. I told myself I'd wipe it all away before I reached downtown, change in my car if I had to. But something in me didn't move fast enough. Darren's text still glowed on my phone. Client meeting. 9:30 sharp. Bring confidence. Confidence. Right. I had 15 minutes. 15 minutes to become someone else again, to scrub off the powder and erase the red tint from my lips. But as I caught my reflection in the elevator mirror, I hesitated. There was something intoxicating about the image staring back at me, confident, mysterious, alive. I had never seen that in my reflection as Erin. When the elevator doors slid open, the lobby security guard looked up, half interested, half tired. Late night, he asked. Something like that, I murmured, lowering my voice, the sound barely my own. He nodded and waved me through without recognition. That sent a tremor of disbelief through me. He didn't even recognize me. Outside, the wet air bit at my legs as I walked toward the garage. Every click of my heels on the pavement sounded like a countdown, a reminder that I was doing something reckless. The rain had turned the city into a smear of light, every reflection a version of myself watching from a different angle. The drive downtown was a blur. Wipers thrashed, lights smeared across the windshield, and my heart pounded every time I thought about Darren seeing me. Would he laugh? Would he understand? I didn't know what had gotten into me, but the thought of wiping away all of this before facing him made my chest ache. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the strange intoxication of risk. By the time I parked near the office, I was shivering. The building stood there, all glass and metal, indifferent. I stared at my reflection in the car window, eyes lined, lips slightly parted, and something in me whispered, "You can hide forever, or you can see what happens." I stepped out. The lobby was nearly empty, lit by half-asleep fluorescent lights. The sound of my heels echoed down the marble floor, crisp and deliberate. I almost turned back twice. But then the elevator doors opened to the 24th floor, our floor, and Darren was there, standing by the glass wall of the meeting room. He turned. For a heartbeat, he didn't speak. His eyes flicked from my hair to my shoes, and his brow furrowed slightly. Then came that half-smile, the one he used when he knew he had control of a room. "Well," he said slowly, his voice low and curious. "You look pretty, a little literally, didn't you?" I froze. "Darren, He raised a hand. "Relax. I'm not judging, just surprised." He stepped closer, his shoes clicking against the floor. "You clean up well. I didn't realize this was part of your repertoire." My pulse hammered in my ears. "It's complicated." He studied me, head tilted. "Is it? Or is it who you are when no one's watching?" That question lodged like a thorn. I didn't know how to answer it, not honestly. I wanted to run, to laugh it off, to disappear. But then he smiled again, more measured this time. "You know," he said, "the client tonight is unconventional. If you can handle walking into that room, as you are, I think you might actually impress them." "What?" "You heard me. They like bold. And you, right now, you're bold." He gestured to the glass doors. "Come on. Let's see if you can pull this off." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a test. I followed him, my hands trembling so hard I had to press them against my sides. The conference room lights felt cruel, exposing every shimmer of foundation, every inch of fabric clinging to my frame. But as Darren opened the door, I forced my shoulders back. The clients were already seated, 2 women in sleek suits, 1 man with a sharp haircut and an even sharper smirk. Their eyes widened just slightly when they saw me. And then one of them smiled. "Finally," she said, "someone in this office with actual style." The meeting blurred. Darren led the pitch, and I watched him weave charm into every sentence, but something unexpected happened. They kept looking at me, asking questions, engaging, smiling. I found myself speaking, at first hesitantly, then with confidence I didn't know I had. My voice was soft, but it carried. I wasn't Aaron anymore, not completely. I was something in between, someone unafraid. When the clients left, laughing and shaking hands, Darren turned to me. "You just won us the deal," he said quietly. "You realize that, right?" I blinked. "I what?" "They loved you. Said you were authentic. Fresh." He paused, his gaze flicking to my lipstick again. "Keep this energy, Aaron. Or whatever version of you this is." Then he leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I think we'll need her for the next round." Her. The word slid under my skin like electricity. I didn't respond. My throat felt dry, my mind spiraling. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. The city was silent except for the hum of streetlights. I stripped the makeup slowly, each wipe of the cotton pad feeling heavier than the last. When I looked at myself barefaced in the mirror, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Darren's words echoed. "We'll need her." I thought it would end there, a one-night risk, an accident swallowed by routine. But the next morning, when I walked into the office as Aaron, clean-shaven, shirt buttoned, tie perfectly straight, Darren gave me a look. "Aaron," he said smoothly, "you've got something unique. Don't lose it."
He didn't have to say it.
I knew exactly what he meant. By the following week, the pattern began. Late-night meetings that only I was invited to. Darren asking me, half joking, if she could make another appearance. I told myself it was about confidence, about persona. But every time I opened that secret drawer at home, it felt less like choice and more like compulsion. Then Emma started noticing. "Why does your skin smell like perfume lately?" she asked one night, half laughing, half curious. "I borrowed your lotion," I lied. She smiled, but her eyes lingered on me a second too long. That same week, she found a strand of synthetic hair in the bathroom sink, the same color as my wig. "Is this yours?" she asked, holding it up. My mouth went dry. "Oh, maybe it stuck to my coat from the dry cleaner." She nodded slowly, but there was doubt in her expression, faint, but real. Meanwhile, Darren grew bolder. "You're better this way," he said one evening, after another successful presentation. "You hold attention. You own the room." He paused, his tone softening. "You ever think maybe this is who you really are?"
I didn't know what to say.
The way he looked at me, curious, powerful, half amused, made it harder to think clearly. By the end of the month, my two worlds were bleeding together. The blue dress hung permanently on a hook behind the door, my reflection in the mirror feeling more honest when I wore it than when I didn't. Emma's questions grew sharper. Darren's invitations grew later. And somewhere in between, I started to lose track of which version of me was supposed to be temporary. It wasn't until one night, when Emma texted she'd be home early and Darren called asking me to come as her again, that everything began to unravel. That night, the rain returned, harder this time. And as I stood before the mirror, half-dressed, torn between the man I was and the persona my boss demanded, I realized I couldn't keep both. But I didn't know which one I was willing to lose. The rain thrashed against the windows, a furious drum that matched the pounding in my chest. My phone buzzed relentlessly, Darren's name glowing at the top of the screen. His voice was still echoing in my head from the last call. "Come tonight. As her. The client wants consistency, and you're her. Don't overthink it, Aaron, or should I say, Ariana?" He'd started calling me that, Ariana, a name he'd pulled out of thin air one night during a late meeting, smiling like he'd invented it. I laughed back then, but now it felt like a cage. On the counter, Emma's text lit up. "Hey, we finished early. Be home soon. Want Thai or pizza?" The two messages sat side by side like opposite choices, one promising success and validation, the other, love and normalcy. I stared at them, the weight of both pressing down like a vice. I should have said no. I should have stayed home. But Darren had a way of making no sound like a career-ending word. "Look pretty," he'd said the first night, and now it wasn't a joke anymore, it was an order. I didn't think. I acted. The blue dress slipped over my shoulders like muscle memory. The makeup followed, faster than ever before. My hands moved automatically, eyeliner, blush, lipstick. Every motion carried that same mixture of thrill and dread, like standing too close to the edge of a balcony. I told myself it would be just one last time. One more performance. Then I'd stop. Then I'd confess everything to Emma. But when I arrived at the office, everything already felt wrong. The lights were low. Only Darren's office was lit, the blinds half closed. I hesitated at the door, water dripping from my umbrella, my breath shallow. He looked up from his desk and smiled that slow, knowing smile. "You came?" "I shouldn't be here," I said, closing the door. "Emma's on her way home. She's going to. She's not the one paying your salary, Aaron." He leaned back, eyes traveling from my heels to my collarbone. "Relax. You're magnificent." My pulse spiked. "This isn't professional." "Professional?" He laughed quietly. "You think what you did for those clients wasn't professional? You made them trust us. You made them feel. You've been hiding behind a name tag and tie your whole life, and now look at you. Confident. Beautiful. Free. His words slid into my head like poison dressed as poetry. I hated that part of me wanted to believe him. Then he stood. There's another client call. We're doing it on video. They requested you specifically. My heart stopped. What? They said they loved your poise last time. Asked if the mysterious woman could join again. He smiled. So go sit down. You're the face of this company tonight. I sat, trembling, as the screen flickered to life. My reflection appeared first, flawless, feminine, poised. If not for the panic tightening my chest, I could have believed it was someone else entirely. Darren began the call smoothly, introducing me as Ariana, our creative consultant. The meeting passed in a surreal blur. Compliments, laughter, a wave goodbye. And when it ended, Darren turned off the camera but left the lights on. The silence that followed was thick and dangerous. He stepped closer. You know, Aaron or Ariana? I think this version of you could go far. I flinched. What does that mean? It means you should stop hiding. You have something most people spend years trying to fake. His hand brushed the edge of my sleeve. Too close. Confidence. I stood abruptly. I should go. He smirked. If you walk out that door now, you'll lose the deal. And maybe your position. Are you threatening me? He tilted his head. Call it persuasion. Don't worry, I'll protect your little secret. As long as you keep being useful. My throat constricted. You can't. He leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. Can't what? Say you looked beautiful tonight? Or that I own the video from the call you just did. My stomach dropped. You recorded that? He smiled. Of course. For training purposes. The room spun. Darren, please. You want to keep your job, your reputation, your girlfriend? He let the word twist. Then show up when I tell you to. Looking just like this. It was blackmail. Smooth corporate blackmail, no threats, no shouting, just quiet control. The kind that eats your life from the inside out. I stumbled backward, my voice shaking. You're sick, he shrugged. Maybe. But I'm not stupid. Think about it. Aaron, you're good at this. Maybe it's time to stop pretending it's temporary. I didn't answer. I just grabbed my bag and ran. The rain hit my face like punishment. My makeup began to melt, streaks of mascara mixing with tears as I sprinted to the car. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked broken, half beautiful, half terrified. By the time I got home, Emma's car was already in the driveway. My heart slammed against my ribs. I froze on the porch, drenched, trembling. There was no time to change. No time to erase Ariana. The door opened. Emma stood there, her expression somewhere between confusion and shock. Her eyes widened, flicking from my smeared lipstick to the soaked dress clinging to my body. Aaron, she whispered. My throat closed. Emma, I can explain. Explain what? Her voice cracked. Who are you right now? I tried to speak, but no words came. The air between us felt like glass, ready to shatter with one wrong breath. She stepped closer, her face pale. How long? Emma, please. How long have you been doing this? Her tone wasn't cruel, just broken. And that made it worse. Tears blurred my vision. Since before I met you. I didn't mean for it to.
To what? She demanded.
To become part of your job? To lie to me every night. The room spun. I wanted to reach for her, but she stepped back, shaking her head. You need to leave, she whispered. Right now. Emma. Go. Her voice cracked on the word, but it was final. I grabbed my coat, my heels slipping against the floor, and stumbled out into the rain. Behind me, the door closed with the same soft, devastating click I used to love. The street was empty.
My phone buzzed again.
Darren, don't worry. I'll take care of everything. Just come back tomorrow. Look pretty. I stood there, mascara running, the cold biting my skin, realizing I'd lost everything, and somehow I wasn't free yet. Because Darren wasn't done with me. He had the video, the proof, the control. And the worst part? A small, traitorous voice inside me still whispered that Ariana wasn't gone, that maybe she never would be. I looked at my reflection in a rain-slicked window, seeing two versions of myself overlapping, Aaron and Ariana, trapped in the same body, both desperate to survive. For the first time, I didn't know which one deserved to. The apartment was silent, but it wasn't peaceful. The rain had stopped, leaving the city slick and glimmering under streetlights, and every reflection in the glass felt like a reminder of the life I was losing. I didn't dare go back inside. Not yet. Not until I knew how Emma would react. Not until I could figure out how to untangle Darren's grip for my life. I stayed on the curb for what felt like hours, heels sinking slightly into the puddles, hair plastered to my face, mascara streaked like war paint.
My phone buzzed again.
Another text from Darren. Nice performance tonight.
Don't disappoint me tomorrow.
The casual menace of the message made my stomach twist. I didn't know how much he had recorded, how many eyes he intended to put on my private life. I slid down against the lamppost, hiding my face in my hands, and let the weight of it all crush me. And then the sound of footsteps. Aaron. I froze. Emma's voice, soft but searching. She emerged from the shadow of the building, her hair wet from the drizzle, coat clinging to her figure. Her expression was a mixture of anger, confusion, and something else I couldn't place. Fear, maybe. Disbelief. Emma, She held up a hand, stopping me. Don't. Not yet. Her voice trembled. I need to understand.
Why?
I swallowed. Words tangled in my throat. How could I explain? How could I tell her about the nights spent in mirrors, the thrill and the shame, Darren's manipulation, the way the dress felt like home even when it wasn't safe? I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Lie to me? Sneak around? Become someone I don't even recognize? Her eyes glistened. Aaron, I don't even know who you are anymore. Her words hit harder than Darren ever could. Every secret, every stolen night of self-expression suddenly felt exposed and fragile. I felt my knees weaken, the heels threatening to slip in the puddles. Emma, please. I can explain. I never wanted you to find out like this. Explain? She laughed, a hollow sound. You're standing here in a dress, soaked, mascara running, and you want to explain? Her glance drifted toward my hands. My phone buzzed again, Darren's name flashing. I didn't answer. I saw the messages. The late nights. The other side of you.
Her voice was low, sharp.
And I can't just pretend it's okay. I took a step forward. Emma, Stop, she said, her voice breaking. You need to choose. This her version of you, or us. Because I can't do both. I won't. The words shattered something inside me. The choice Darren had been dangling in front of me. Perform as Ariana and keep my career, hide, or face him, suddenly collided with Emma's ultimatum. My heart raced, trapped between desire and love, risk and safety. I don't know if I can, I whispered, voice barely audible over the dripping rain. Emma stepped closer, and for the first time, I saw the fear in her eyes mirror the fear in mine. Then maybe you shouldn't come back, she said softly, and turned to leave. My hands shook. Emma, wait. But she disappeared into the night, leaving me soaked, shivering, and alone. Then, a shadow moved in the reflection of the streetlight. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Darren. Good. You're thinking clearly. See you tomorrow. Don't be late. And remember, she's counting on you. She's counting on me. The words echoed in my head like a curse. Darren's control, the seductive power of being Ariana, the thrill and terror of the transformation, all of it was tangled together, and I didn't know which thread to pull without unraveling myself completely. I sank to the curb, clutching my knees, staring at the darkened city. Somewhere beyond the foggy streetlights, the apartment was empty. Emma had gone. Darren was waiting. And I had no idea which version of me would survive the morning. Rain still dripped from my hair, and I realized I was smiling, a small, trembling smile that tasted like fear and anticipation. I didn't know if it was the thrill of risk, the desperation of control, or the way being Ariana had claimed a piece of me I could never give up. And then I saw it in the reflection of the puddle at my feet, My face, split between Aaron and Ariana, staring back at me with the same question I couldn't answer. Which one will live? The street was silent except for the distant hum of a car engine and the soft trickle of water down the gutter. My phone buzzed one last time. I didn't check it. Some doors had closed tonight. Some were waiting to open. And I realized I was trapped, caught between two worlds, neither safe, neither fully mine. The city didn't care. Darren didn't care. Emma might never forgive me. But somewhere deep inside, Ariana was waiting. And she wasn't going anywhere. I shivered in the night, knowing the storm wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The story ends here for now.